Tonight's big stories. The Philippine Coast Guard is now reporting that the Chinese Coast Guard still had their water cannons at the ready and attempted to block Philippine vessels when they conducted their most recent resupply mission to Ayungin.
It's pouring school supplies in the 14 schools affected by the turf war between Makati and Taguig. But things are about to get more interesting with Makati Mayor Abby Binay saying she is open to running for mayor of Taguig.
And how will the new Agrarian Emancipation Act benefit the farming industry? Department of Agrarian Reform Secretary Codrado Estrella III joins us later in the studio to discuss this and other issues hounding the agency.
Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Danny Laurel.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Right on to our top story. And apparently there's more to yesterday's follow-up resupply mission in Ayungin than what came out in initial statements. The Philippine Coast Guard is now reporting that their Chinese Coast Guard counterpart activated water cannons after all while blocking resupply ships headed to BRP Sierra Madre. Let's watch this footage first.
Sir, nag-activate na ng water cannon si 5305, sir. Nag-activate na ng water cannon.
So this video was taken from one of the resupply boats heading to BRP Sierra Madre yesterday morning. As you can see, the Chinese Coast Guard ship opened their water cannons as the Philippine boat approached. AFP Chief of Staff Romeo Browner himself shared this footage to members of the media. This is what he had to say about the incident.
We can say that they were flexing their muscles, no? Parang pinapakita nila na nandito kami at ready kaming gamitin itong mga water cannons namin against you. Ibig sabihin talagang maring nagbibigay sila ng warning, pinipigilan pa rin tayo.
Alright, so brief recall that this, of course, that water cannon incident that hit the resupply boats, that was in August 5.
That's right.
This one was just yesterday, August 22nd.
And we talked to AFP spokesperson
Medel
Aguilar about this, and he said it was a successful mission. At that time, we didn't know yet that China had attempted to...
That was just yesterday.
Yes, that they opened their water cannons after all. This is why it's big news at the moment.
Right. On top of that, satellite images, which never lie, have showed that there were up to 11 Chinese militia boats in and around the Ayungin Shoal, as well as in Mischief Reef, which is closer, of course, to the Spratly group of islands. And 6 of these boats...
I guess that's the part where they're saying that there were attempts to intercept or to blockade.
But let's put it in context.
What are we going to be doing about this?
Yes,
You know, is this as much of a threat for us to start retaliating again at a situation where it was already under control?
Yeah, that's a great question, because then they may have successfully resupplied BRP Sierra Madre this time around, but what of future trips?
The next one.
Right, exactly. So, unlike the August 5 incident, hindi na tinutok sa Philippine ships, but like Bronner said, mukhang pinipigilan pa rin yung resupply mission. And again, China has said through its spokesperson, Coast Guard spokesperson, that they do see that territory as theirs. They call it the Ren Ai Tiao, right? So.
All right, now, aside from activating those water cannons, the Coast Guard says the Chinese vessels also made some dangerous maneuvers and were shadowing the Philippine vessels during this new resupply mission. National Security Council Assistant Secretary Jonathan Malaya says this is proof that China indeed tried to block our ships and that there was no special arrangement made with them based on supposed humanitarian considerations as initially claimed by the Chinese Coast Guard.
Sinasabi ng Chinese Embassy na pinalusot, hindi po totoo yan. Nagkaroon po ng as usual patentero, nagkaroon po ng mga tensyon din doon, nakapasok nga po tayo. So yung sinasabi nila na parang welcome, pasok, hindi po totoo yan.
So ito na nga yung tanong, what is the AFP going to do following this latest act of aggression from China? We have Brian Castillo to give us the answer. Go ahead, Brian.
AFP Chief Romeo Browner says they are now studying the possibility of deploying Navy ships for the resupply mission. He explains that they typically use civilian or PCG vessels for these missions to prevent heightened tensions in the disputed waters. But they are now considering the option of deploying gray ships or Navy ships in light of the recent incidents. For now, Browner says they're still studying this option, but he is firm in saying that no country can dictate what Filipinos can do within its own territory. Sean?
Thanks for that, Brian.
Meanwhile, in other news, the Education Department says it is unlikely that the opening of classes will revert to June by next year. A Pulse Asia survey showed that 80% of Filipinos want a June to March school calendar. That's amid difficulty in classes from April to May due to extreme heat. But the DepEd says the transition period for this proposal could take up to 4 to 5 years, saying that they have to maintain a certain number of school days. Now, when asked during today's Senate hearing, Pagasa says whether classes are held during the wet or dry month, it will both involve sacrifices from teachers and students.
In the old calendar, and the graduation ceremonies are typically done outdoor in the old AC, March to April. So maganda po ang weather. But let's see during the new calendar. So this is just last graduation which was held in UP. So inulan sila.
Speaking of the school year, the dispute between Makati and Taguig is getting even more heated amid the distribution of school supplies in the affected schools. Makati Mayor Abby Binay had this to say when she was out today. Let's listen in.
Ito na aking remembrance para sa inyo. No, hindi to eco bag. Hindi tayo namimigay ng eco bag.
That was the lighthearted jest of Mayor Bina as she spearheaded the distribution of school supplies at the Pembo Elementary School. PES is one of the 14 schools that's part of the 10 Embo barangays that are being transferred to the city of Taguig in accordance with the decision of the Supreme Court. The Makati LGU was able to distribute school supplies after obtaining a written authority from the Education Department itself. Binay said she also received reports that the Taguig LGU was blocking their distribution of school supplies without a written authority.
As far as Makati is concerned, nung sila po ay namigay ng school supplies nila, hindi ho kami humingi ng kopya, hindi kami humingi ng written authority kung meron silang written authority mula sa DepEd Central Office. Ayaw ko pong nagkakagulo sa loob na aking eskwelahan.
For their part, the Taguig LGU also started its distribution of school packages to students of schools that were formerly part of Makati. Taguig Mayor Lani Cayetano led the distribution at Pitogo High School on Tuesday, where she proudly mentioned that they're not lacking in assistance that they provide to their students.
Gusto ko pong ipahayag sa inyong lahat that for more than a decade already, nagbibigay po ang lungsod ng Taguig ng kompletong kagamitan sa ating mga estudyante. Yung mga basic needs, school supplies ng ating mga kabataan, including uniforms and shoes.
Let's talk more about these back-to-back school supply distributions in the Embo schools with none other than Makati City Mayor Abby Binay. Welcome back to the big story, Mayor Abby. Given that the Embos are now officially part of Taguig City, what made you decide to distribute school supplies in these schools today?
Well, the school supplies were procured and awarded even before the start of the school year. So it is just, because this was in preparation for the school year, hindi naman namin alam na lalabas na yung final decision with the Supreme Court. So we have prepared to provide for 45,000 students in our 14 schools in the Embos.
So Mayor, clarify ko lang, you had prepared the school packs before the decision was announced, pero does that mean this is a one-off? This is the last time you're going to do it, or you're going to keep doing it next year?
Well, chances are this might be the last, since I will no longer be able to enter into contracts that involve non-Makati residents, since I am using, the city is using taxpayers' money from Makati. So, if using the argument that the residents in the Embos are no longer residents of Makati, then this might be my parting gift, the parting gift of the taxpayers of Makati to the students in the Embo schools.
All right, Mayor Abby, we just heard that you Of course, you have been outspoken about this, that 3 of these 14 schools you want to keep under your jurisdiction. These are Makati Science High School, Fort Bonifacio Elementary, and High School. Where are we at in this? And do you think you're going to get your wish?
Well, first of all, the schools are owned by the city. So, yun yung sinasabi namin that, well, every city is mandated to establish a science high school. So, the Makati Science High School is necessary in compliance with the mandate to establish a high school per city. So, we are very confident that we will be able to keep. When we say keep it in Makati, meaning keep it under DepEd Makati. So it will be retained under DepEd Makati. We will be presenting our position with the Office of the Secretary of DepEd to explain our position on why we do not intend to include the 3 schools for lease to the city of Taguig.
Yes, Mayor, what about the other 2? Why keep them? I understand the reasoning behind the Makati Science High School, but what about the Fort Bonifacio Elementary and Fort Bonifacio High School?
Both the schools are actually contiguous to the University of Makati. So if you look at the location, it is Fort Bonifacio High School is right beside the University of Makati. So our plan is to make it into a complete university, because as it is now, the University of Makati only provides senior high school and college. So we will now have a complete set from elementary school until college. So they will now be under the umbrella of the University of Makati. So that's the reason why we want to keep the 2 schools.
All right. Thanks
Mayor,
for clearing
may I-
that up.
Just to ask, no, this rift, so-called rift between the 2 LGUs has been in the news as of late. Can you say that the transition is now underway and this has been resolved?
There's no resolution until the transition is done. So the transition is ongoing, meaning as far as the education part is concerned, as when I say education, hindi po kasama ang college. So the transition team has already will start conducting the inventory of the assets that will now give the gig the opportunity to either purchase or lease the properties, because we're not just talking about the buildings but also the equipment inside the school. So our chairs, our laptops, our computers, our smart lab. The city government have these assets in our books. So after the inventory, then Taguig will decide, and after the inventory, there will be a valuation on how much will be the purchase price or the lease, the rent for the movables and immovables located in the city, in the school.
Mayor Binay, when you were out distributing supplies this afternoon, you were ambushed by reporters, at which point you said that you're open to running for mayor of Taguig, which you might have realized by now made a lot of headlines. Before you answer, I wanted to roll the soundbite.
Pero hindi pa po ako nakakapagdesisyon dahil magiging mabigat at mahirap na task ang tumakbo sa Taguig, sapagkat una, hindi po ako familiar sa lugar. Although marami po tayong magandang maibibigay at magagawa para sa lungsod na yon.
Mayor, I wonder if you could elaborate, please.
Okay, I'm really not the type who... Actually, when you ask me what's my plan in 2025, the real answer is I don't have any. When I ran I had no plans in running for mayor in 2016. I was ready. I keep on telling people when they ask, I was ready to retire from politics and take a back seat. So as far as 2025 is concerned, I keep all my options open. And that is one option. So it is not the only option, but it is one that I am considering. So hindi kasi ako para magsalita ng tapos to say, no, I'm not running. Because what if I am? And it's only 2023. Marami pong pwedeng mangyari between today and 2025.
I would say 2023 na, hindi only 2023 because you need to. It's
Every 3 years.
You gotta get your campaign going.
I still have 1 year to decide. I think 2024 will be the time where I will have to decide. I know it's a cliche, but I always say I'm still waiting for a sign.
Well, the sign, Mayor, might be these EMBOs, 14
Baka ito na yung
barangay.
sign mo. We asked the Embo residents, Mayor, wait lang. Sean.
Okay. So, these EMBO residents could be, your voting base. Have you already done early math as early as 2023? Kaya 2023 pa lang. In 1 year, of course, you're calculating the population of the EMBOs versus that of Taguig. How is that looking?
Actually, Mayor, sorry, Mayor. I'll give you time to answer that. In the meantime, listen to this soundbite that we have from the Embo residents.
Ang gusto namin si Miora, lumaban siya, di ba? Nang lalaban siya sa Taguig. Tingnan natin na pagka-mayor, tingnan natin kung sino mananalo. Sa ngayon pa lang po, sir, taga-Taguig mismo ang nagsasabi na inuna pa daw ni Cayetano magbigay dito sa Makati ng mga gamit. Pero sila doon mismo sa Taguig, hindi binigyan ng gamit.
Kung tatakbo po siya, baka mas maging maganda po ang benepisyo ng taga-Taguig. Para kung hindi po mapantayan yung ibinibigay ng Taguig, maibigay niya po sa mga taga-Taguig.
So, Mayor,
baka yan na yung sign mo, Mayor.
yeah, do you think these EMBOs that used to be part of Makati, of course, will play a big role? And are you counting on that?
Of course, hindi man ako siguro magde-decide kung sa tingin ko I don't have a fighting chance, di ba? So, again, I don't want to, okay, I'm getting so much pressure from the EMBOs. To be honest. Kaya medyo...
Positive pressure.
Medyo ayoko sa kanila kasi the feeling of helplessness in the area is very, very apparent. And it's very difficult and emotional for me to go there. Because, yun nga, gusto nila na tumakbo ko. Because they feel that that's the only solution to their problem. And, there's still a possibility of a plebiscite. I mean, may mga ibang paraan naman para somehow mabawi o mapabalik ang EMBOs sa Makati. So again, running in Taguig is one, and then there are other options like a plebiscite.
All right, so before we get to 2025, Mayor Abby, ito munang transition natin. One last question na lang. The last time you were here, we were talking about, of course, this writ of execution. Yes. After that, naglabas na rin si Taguig ng statement about why they don't need a writ of execution because executory na raw yung Supreme Court decision. Nasa na ba tayo ngayon? Hinahabol mo pa rin ba or okay na yon?
Actually, hindi pwedeng walang writ of execution because there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered. My number one question is this. When COMELEC now transfers the residents of EMBOS to Taguig, what happens now to my sitting councilors that are residents of the EMBOS? What is the answer to that question? If you are saying you don't need a writ to explain it. If I was a resident, good thing I am not. If I am a resident of one of the 10 EMBOs, does that mean I can no longer be mayor of Makati?
All right. So
What is the answer to that question?
I do not, unfortunately, have the answer for you, Mayor
Let's
Abby.
call the Supreme Court. Hold on.
We'll call the Supreme Court, try to get them here. So for now, we're on a stalemate there. Thank you, as usual, for joining us and for your time tonight. Makati City Mayor Abby Binay.
Now, up next, we will have a chat with Agrarian Reform Secretary Conrado Estrella over the new Agrarian Emancipation Act, among other matters. Stay with us.
Welcome back. You're watching Big Story here in One News. The Agrarian Reform Department says it has ordered a committee to begin crafting the implementing rules and regulations, for the new Agrarian Emancipation Act, which will condone the 57.5 billion peso debt to over 610,000 farmers. Now, here to discuss this and more, we have with us live in the studio DAR Secretary Coronado Estrella. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the Big Story.
Oh,
Okay,
thank you.
typo yate. Okay, Sec. We were already discussing agrarian reform. Of course, it's very, very long history. Unahin na lang natin, no? Sa ano ba yung magiging mabuting magagawa nito nga pang-ilang incarnation na ng ating agrarian reform law na Agrarian Emancipation Act?
First of all, of course, with the farmers not already paying their amortization fees, no, and all other penalties, malaking bagay ito because they will have additional income and perhaps they can use as additional capital for their farming. So perhaps with this additional capital, they can go into a more modernized, more scientific method of farming for greater production.
And where will they get that kind of advice, Secretary? Of course, pera, minsan hindi sapat yung pera. Kailangan nga natin ng technology, kaalaman.
That is why the Department of Agrarian Reform is accelerating our the way we are providing support services to our farmers is not only confined to farm machineries and equipments and farm-to-market roads, but also a lot of institutional support services. Like, for example, going down to the grassroots and conducting trainings for them so that perhaps time will come that they will embrace the latest technology in their farming methods.
Secretary, the question is though, why just now this Emancipation Act? You also have your father having been as well Secretary of DAR before.
Yes.
Bakit, with all the hardships that the farmers have experienced for many, many decades, why just now under PBBM? Bigla na lang itong
Oh yes,
na-approve
because we
finally?
discussed this matter. And etong napag-usapan namin, from the time of his father and my grandfather, who was the first Secretary of Agrarian Reform, up to now, ang daming naging developments niyan eh. And one is, of course, climate change. Two,
Okay.
of course, tumaas ng husto yung presyo ng mga farm equipments and machineries and also farm inputs like fertilizers and pesticides, no? Plus, of course, nagkaroon pa ng pandemic. And then, the way these lands were distributed to the farmers, napakaliit na eh. Yung mga established farms already, sinibak-sibaks natin, masyadong maliliit na. Sometimes we even call it oversized subdivision lots, no? And many other factors. Dumating na yung panahon na dahil yan sa mga yan, nahirapan na yung mga magsasaka na makaahon at magbayad ng amortization fees nila. So, the President and I spoke and sabi natin, plus the factor pala na hindi na-update yung mga payments ng mga agrarian reform beneficiaries, no? Pag pinagganon mo pinag-compare mo yung records data ng Department of Agrarian Reform, which unfortunately was not updated, and that of the Land Bank, magkaiba eh. So, the President and I spoke. Nung araw, ibinigay ng tatay mo at ng lolo mo itong mga lupa na merong kasamang utang dahil nakakabayad pa sila nung araw. And during those days, nape-predict natin kung kailan ng rainy season, kung kailan ng dry season, kung kailan ng harvest time. Ngayon, wala nang rainy, wala nang dry season eh. It's consistently unpredictable.
Alright, balikan ko lang, Sec, yung sinabi mo, no? Yun nga, masyadong maliit, no? Yung ano yung term niya, sir? Parcelize.
Yes,
No?
yes.
Nitong mga tracts of land. Now, when that happens, nawawala po yung economies of scale. At
Exactly.
tumataas lalo ang input and production costs.
Exactly.
So, paano?
And that's actually what economists have told us, that
Yes.
it's going to
Yes.
give rise to a new class of landed but still poor farmers. Right?
Yes.
So may title nga sila, but they're
Oo.
still poor because they can't increase productivity on the land.
And add to that pa, no, Sec, because of that, then they might find other ways like, kunyari, papalis nila yung lupa nila sa mga commercial farms or whatever. How do we plan to work around these issues? Kasi ito yung mga issues na paulit-ulit na lang
Oh, yes.
na nagka-crop up, not just from stakeholders, but also from lawmakers.
Yes. And in fact, the way to do it so that they will become viable is this is the time that they have to be organized as cooperatives now. And they will have to join together as one big vast tract of land so that they can mechanize, they can modernize. And, it becomes economies of scale. Kaya kailangan talagang magbuklod-buklod sila. Hindi pwede yung iba-iba ang direksyon. Sige, ang liliit ng putol ng lupa eh. They really have to join, magkausap-usap
So
sila.
medyo similar siya sa PUV modernization. Para kayo makakuha ng prangkisa, kailangan magbuo kayo ng kooperatiba or mag-incorporate. May ganun din ba ang rule?
I don't know about the PUV.
Pero ganun po yung general
Is there a
rule.
need to amend the law?
Yes and no. First, if you amend the law, Republic Act 6657, you'll be sending wrong signals to the business community. Because apparently, they might think they might think that they're going to bring back the period of acquisition again. And this does not stabilize anything. I am not exactly against or for it, no? But the business community might feel uncomfortable with it because apparently they're starting to look how they can resuscitate the agri sector with only small pieces of land, no?
Sir, how are you protecting the small pieces of land from being bought out by big real estate developers, by business people? Like you mentioned, ang mahal
Pardon me?
na.
What
How
was
can
that?
you protect the small farmers
There is a
from
law.
keeping...
We did not amend Republic Act 6657 because it's in the law that you cannot sell
For 10 years.
for 10 years.
But we
Yes.
hear that people do sell it within that time frame.
Yes, because there was lack of information campaign at that time. They, many of them, I would say, are not aware that they are violating the provisions of the law. Yung ibang nakausap namin, hindi naman namin alam na hindi pala pwedeng ibenta. And there was lack of information campaign.
What about enforcement?
Yes, in fact, there are cases now, pending cases that ang sinasabi namin sa kanila ngayon, no, you have to be very innovative. You have to be creative in approaching this particular problem. Masyadong complicated ito. And now we are starting to tell them that if we find out that you are selling or you have sold your land within the 10-year period, we will take it back from you and award it to more deserving farmers.
Okay. Pinag-uusapan natin to lahat, Sec, no? I couldn't help but think, kailan ba nasimula tong agrarian reform talk or program? Sobrang tagal na.
Of
By
course.
now,
Yeah.
Decades.
baka matanda na masyado yung mga farmers, right? Or the new generation, yung mga heirs nila, kasi namamana naman yan di ba?
Okay,
Are they still interested in farming?
You're talking about their heirs. By the way, may I take this opportunity to let you know that the hidden gem in Republic Act 11953 or the new Agrarian Emancipation Act, otherwise known as the condonation law. No, the hidden gem there is that if the original owners, the original agrarian reform beneficiaries will already pass it on to their legitimate heirs, they are exempt. The heirs will be exempt already from paying estate tax.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, that is the what is provided for.
But do they have
in
the
law.
freedom, sir, to sell it? Or are they
Within the
beholden to
10-year
this law?
period, they can sell it, but only to the government. They
Okay.
can sell it back to the government, and government will buy it from them, and government will award it to
And it's going to be strictly agriculture
Yes,
purposes. It
yes,
can never be converted
yes,
into
yes.
other types of real
But there's
estate.
also a restriction, right, on how much land the heirs can inherit.
Oh, yes.
What is
Yes.
it? 3 hectares?
Yes.
5 hectares?
3 hectares,
3 hectares.
every heir.
So each heir is only entitled to 3 hectares at most.
Well, first of all, you have to know that the land, the maximum hectarage that an agrarian reform beneficiary can own is only 3 hectares. And therefore, what the heirs will be inherited is only from that 3 hectare originally given to the agrarian reform beneficiary.
Right. So, do their heirs have pwede ba nilang i-chop-chop yung land? Example,
Subdivide.
oo, subdivide.
Yeah.
Kunyari, 3 yung anak, tapos
Ay,
may 3
siyempre,
hectares.
ganun
Pwede.
ang mangyayari.
So, pwede siya.
Pwede.
Technically, pwede ba yun, sir?
Alin, yung icha-chop
Oo,
nila yung lupa.
isa-subdivide.
Pag pinabigay mo sa mga heirs, di siyempre,
Iba-iba na yung
maghahati-hati
Yeah, so
sila.
then each heir will then, what if they have different ideas for how to use the land? Right?
Exactly.
So, how
If
do
they
we-
have different ideas,
How do you
that is
paano na
Republic
enforce
Act
that?
6657. I think kailangan tanungin natin yung mga gumawa ng batas na yan noong panahon ni
Parang ang gulo, sir.
President. Magulo talaga.
Maliit na paliit kada
Kaya
henerasyon.
sinasabi ko kanina sa inyo, nung inumpisahan nung administration na yon, na sinibak-sibak yung lupa, ang liit-liit. Pagkatapos paano pa? Sinibak-sibak na nila. And then, what even is worse is that we issued collective CLOAS. Collective CLOAS for the information of our those who are watching us now. These are certificate of land ownership awards that were awarded to numerous owners, but with the absence of parcelization. So there was chaos, there was confusion, and some even. But we are now parcelizing this.
Bottom line is, if you hold the CLOA, you're not necessarily the owner, the legitimate owner.
You're one of the
One
owners.
of the owners.
You're just potentially one of the owners.
Yes. If we are talking
claim.
about collective CLOAS, you are you are one of the owners.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but you don't know where you're going
Land
to.
is.
Where is your place? But I would like to inform everybody that we are on track when it comes to this problem, because we have really accelerated parcelization of these lands and already have
Yung mga
been.
naka-CLOA, Sec.
Yes, and we already have, the titles coming from collective CLOAS. These are what we call e-titles.
Okay.
And ever since we took over, we've been going around, bringing government closer to the people and distributing these titles already to the people. And they are so, the agrarian reform beneficiaries are so happy because finally, now they know where they're going, which part of the property.
Alin yung kanila.
Kung ano yung kanila. And would you like me to cite to you some figures?
Secretary, on the point of the emancipation law,
Yes.
on the 57.56 billion that will be condoned, the government is happy to forgo this? The land bank is happy to forgo this much revenues?
We
that
have
could
no
use?
other choice. These
Okay.
are called the dormant accounts anyway. So
What would that have been used
They-
for, Sana?
they are not paying
There are
anyway, or they
non-performing
cannot.
loans,
Anyway.
right?
Yes, they cannot
They're not-
pay anyway. So
So
we
parang
might as well
sunk cost na rin
we
yun
might
ng
as well
government.
give it to the farmers, and
and let them start making food for
Yes.
us, right? Of course, Secretary, you've made headways. This Condonation Act was passed on July, exactly a month ago, July 24th?
Yes.
Right?
The new Agrarian Emancipation Act was published in the official Gazette last July 7, 2023. And as provided for in the law, 15 days upon publication in the official Gazette, the law shall take effect, and that is July 24.
Then
Then just very
another,
quickly, the IRR.
the IRR, which
And
you, yeah.
as
How are we on
provided
that?
for in the law, that within 60 days
Okay.
from the time of its effectivity, the Presidential Agrarian Reform Council, the Department of Agrarian Reform, and also the Land Bank of the Philippines should come up with an implementing rules and regulations
So we can
for
expect
the
it.
implementation of this law.
Yeah. So we can expect it in September, around September 23, 24, third week of September, let's just say.
God willing, we will have it completed, finalized by September 12 and submitted to the President.
You've been going around, Secretary, on the ground to farms distributing these titles, right?
Yes.
How do you feel? Ako kasi, I don't know, sometimes, no, when I go to farms, I talk to farmers, yung mga anak nila hindi na po interesado mag-farm. How are the farmers doing on the ground? I mean, this is all well and good. Once they get and secure the land, kanila na, wala na silang utang sa land bank, magsasaka ba talaga sila pa rin?
Pardon me for the language.
Go ahead, sir.
You have to make agriculture sexy again.
I agree
Okay
with
lang naman yung language na yan.
10,000%.
We have to make
Better
it sexy
country.
again. Now, how do we do that? We have all the laws. Like, for example, we have government-owned lands, okay? And these lands, especially the military reservations, hundreds of thousands of hectares. Those that are owned by state universities and colleges, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have what you call the Executive Order number 75, series of 2019. And this gives the DAR the authority to cover these lands and convert it into viable lands that shall be distributed to, number 1, rebel returnees. Number 3, retired PNP and AFP personnel, and addressing your concern about the next generation, providing lands also to graduates of 4-year agricultural courses. And I think we should take this opportunity because this will be the new breed of farmers that will be able to address climate change and will be able to deal with other problems there because they are technically equipped. So this is one way to make it sexy.
Yeah, but also you're going to need to bring in lots of modern technology, right?
Yes,
Hindi
they're-
na uso yung manual labor ngayon. People don't want to be like toiling all day under the hot sun.
They will be the ones because they have studied scientific agriculture.
Kasi graduate sila ng
graduates na
BS
sila.
Agri-related
Oo.
course.
Kaya,
One
kaya
question lang po. Will this not set a precedent for in the future, of people not repaying their loans? If this happens, sasabihin nila, okay,
Just
in the
wait for
future,
amnesty or wait for
wait na lang for
another
Emancipation
consolidation.
Well, I think if the agrarian reform will be distributing lands to the farmers, it's all right if you give it to them for free, without any loans attached to it anymore.
Okay.
And why should we stop supporting people who are putting food in our homes, in our tables? Hindi ba?
All right.
Some will ask, bakit tayo gastos ng gastos para sa mga magsasaka? Kailan ba matatapos yan? Para sa akin, kahit hindi na matapos yan, total sila nagpapakain sa atin. Can you just imagine if they stop farming, if they stop
Wala na
planting,
tayong lahat.
if they stop putting food in our
Uy, malay nyo,
tables.
maging mura na ulit yung kanin.
Considering that we're in a food crisis, we are 1,000% behind you when
We
you say
are.
we're going to
you.
try to make agriculture sexy,
Sexy
again.
again.
Here's
Thank
hoping
you.
you succeed. But
Yes.
for now, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
DAR Secretary Conrado Estrella.
Thank you.
Up next on the big story, all roads lead to the Philippine Arena on Friday as the FIBA World Cup kicks off. But is NLEX ready for the heavy traffic expected? We'll find out when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here in One News.
2 days to go, and traffic and toll road officials are preparing for the influx of fans watching the FIBA World Cup matches. Thousands of motorists are expected to use NLEX this Friday for the opening games at the Philippine Arena. Now, aside from weekend vacationers, this includes the media and security teams covering the World Cup and, of course, basketball fans. The tourism department is expecting some 600,000 spectators catching the games live. The NLEX Corporation is reminding everyone that some access points to the Philippine Arena will be closed off, so plan your trips ahead, guys. And here are some other reminders.
Sana po mas maaga po silang magbakasyon. Huwag na po nilang antayin yung Friday. Maaring bumiyahe na sila ng Huwebes ng hapon o gabi.
Dahil po sa aming eksperyensya, kung magde-declare po kami ng suspension ng number coding, dumadami po ang sasakyan sa lansangan na nagki-create po ng traffic.
Miami Heat Filipino-American head coach Eric Spoelstra headlined a basketball clinic hosted by Team USA over at the Shangri-La Fort in Taguig earlier today. Coach Spo led a number of young aspiring Filipino hoopers through drills, workouts, and leadership development programming. Spoelstra, however, was not the only notable name from USA basketball who showed up at the event. Fellow Team USA coaches Steve Kerr and Ty Lue also helped the basketball aspirants with some drills. The young athletes were also yet to be surprised even more later in the event when players of Team USA showed up for a brief moment. Speaking to the media, Spoelstra said that the players are already feeling the love and support from the Filipino crowd.
I've tried to explain it to everybody, but unless you actually come to Manila and really experience it, it's tough to articulate that. And we've only been here for 24 hours, and all the players now understand what I was talking about.
Now, of course, we have a big event on Friday, so here's some weather updates just in time. Pag-asa is monitoring a low-pressure area that could develop into a tropical depression in the next 24 hours. This afternoon, the LPA was spotted some 445 kilometers east of Apari in Cagayan. Its trough is expected to bring cloudy skies over the Cordilleras and the Cagayan Valley. Pag-asa is not ruling out the possibility of this LPA intensifying into a tropical cyclone over the next 24 hours. If it does, it will be named Goring. Meanwhile, the southwest monsoon or habagat is still bringing scattered rains and thunderstorms over Mimaropa, Visayas, Zamboanga Peninsula, and BARMM. It is also bringing isolated rains over Metro Manila and other parts of the country. And aside from these weather disturbances, Pag-asa is also monitoring a tropical depression outside the Philippine area of responsibility, spotted some 3,060 kilometers east of northern Luzon. It is moving west-northwest at a speed of 15 km/h. We have no information yet on when this storm is expected to enter the PAR.
Thanks for raining on our parade, on our FIBA parade.
More traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
That.
We're already expecting how many? 600,000, well, not live spectators, but tourists, both domestic and international.
And 2 bagyos, this is the last thing we need.
How can EDSA handle all of that?
Or even
we need the sun dance.
We do.
Also
We need
the love of basketball.
offer eggs and do some rain dances. But that's it for the show tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.